আমরা লাইভ আছি এখন, স্যার স্টার্ট করতে পারেন।
All right.
A very good afternoon to yes sir, yes
very, very good afternoon
sir.
To you and to the members of the audience, online audience, to all of them.
Yeah, thank you sir, thank you sir.
To your friends who are manipulating everything, right?
Yes sir.
On managing
Yes,
everything,
yes.
all of them, to your
Yeah.
principal, right?
Yeah.
So, to every one of them, good morning. Sorry, very good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Sir, a very good afternoon to dear participants and esteemed dignitaries in this virtual platform. On behalf of Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram, I, as the convener of today's webinar, would like to welcome you all to this session of special web lectures. We are immensely honored and privileged today because we have got amongst us two eminent teachers, Professor Davidprasad and Professor Jidananda Bhattacharya. Since the announcement of the pandemic on 11th of March 2020, tons of webinars and online lectures are being conducted by various educational institutions. But webinars and online lectures, specially tailored for the needs of the students of CBCS course curriculum, are really few in number. Hence, we at Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram, initiated our humble attempt in organizing special web lectures on topics directly pertaining to CBCS syllabus. Our endeavor is student-centric, and therefore I have requested the resource persons to deliver their lectures in simple and intelligible manner. As the convener of today's webinar, I sincerely and fervently hope that today's special web lectures will address the issues concerning the students. Now I request our IQAC coordinator, Madam Dr. Rimi Roy, patron of today's webinar, and Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, our respected principal sir and chief patron of today's online lectures, to address the August assembly. Our IQAC coordinator, ma'am, and our principal sir both have always been a source of constant inspiration, motivation, and support to us. Over to our IQAC coordinator, ma'am, Dr. Rimi Roy.
Very good afternoon to all of you. I hereby welcome to all the participants, my friends, colleagues and resource persons to these special lectures on Robert Browning and Andrew Marvell. This special lecture has organized by the Department of English, Vivekananda College, in collaboration with IQAC. At first, I pay my heartiest gratitude to our principal sir, Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, who encouraged us to do such a wonderful special lecture, and I am also thankful to Professor Satyabrata Dinda, Professor Biplab Dash, and all the faculties of the Department of English for their hard working regarding this special lecture. Robert Browning was one of the most important English poets of Victorian period. His dramatic monologues and the physio-historical epic, The Ring and the Book, a novel, have established him a major figure in the history of English. Besides, Andrew Marvell was an English metaphysical poet and politician who sat in the House of Commons at various times. Today, we will learn more about of their achievements in this special lecture. This special lecture will be incomplete without the resource persons who are renowned in their respective categories. I welcome Professor Dr. Devidprasad Bhattacharya, former
Thank you.
Professor of English, University of Kalyani, and also welcome Professor Dr. Chidananda Bhattacharya, Professor of English and Head of the Department, Rabindra Bharati University. Now I request to our Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, to share his valuable thoughts regarding this special lecture session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, the principal of Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram, warm-heartedly welcome the organizers of this special lecture series, along with the IQAC coordinator, the Department of English of our college, the respected speakers, Dr. Deviprasad Bhattacharya and Dr. Chidananda Bhattacharya, and my dear students and all the participants. Our renowned college has taken many initiatives to help our students in this pandemic situation of COVID-19 so that they can get help the study materials provided on LMS of our college website. The teachers are also conducting online classes on a regular basis for the benefit of the people. This special lecture series has also been organized keeping in mind the benefit of our students who will be helped immensely with the knowledge of Robert Browning's poetry and also metaphysical poetry of Andrew Marvell. We are looking forward to organize more of such special lectures in near future on various other topics, not only for the students of English literature, but also for the students of other departments too. Our college established 1986. I joined the college on 11th April 2002 as principal. Then we had no honors courses and regular PG courses and distance PG courses. Our result was very poor at that time when only 110 students appeared in BA examination, in which only 9 students passed. At present, our results for both honors and general courses are about 93 to 95%, which is an amazing achievement. We have introduced 11 honors courses, these Bengali, English, Education, History, Political Science, Journalism and Mass Communication, Geography, Physics, Mathematics, Computer Science. We have also introduced regular PG courses, these MSc in Geography, MA in Bengali, and MA in Education. We have introduced distance 6 PG courses from Vidyasagar University, viz. Bengali, English and History, Sanskrit, Political Science and Geography. We have also introduced 4 PG courses from Rabindra Bharati University, Bengali, History, Education and Geography. We achieved several cases in our college. That's I am explaining here. We have accredited by NAC as A grade institution in the first cycle in 2016. MHRD has nominated our college as social media champion in 2019 in India. Unnata Bharat Abhijan has sanctioned our college 5 villages for making them as model villages. India Today magazine, published on 6 July 2020, has ranked our college as the 10th best emerging college in India. We proudly hold the 6th position. In Kolkata, our college position is first rank. Second rank is JD Birla and third rank is Bethune College. We hold the 64th position in arts and 57th position in science among the best 120 colleges in India. Our college also has ISO certificate. With my utter pleasure, I am following to the initiation of this special lecture series, which will be taken care by the convener, Professor Satyabrat Dinda, Associate Professor of English, Department of our college. The patron, Dr. Rimi Rai, who is the IQAC coordinator, and the respected teachers of English department of this college. Thanks to all the participants, the organizers, and special thanks to the speakers for this lecture series. Thank you.
Welcome to our first technical session. In our first technical session, we have Professor Davidprasad Bhattacharya. It is my proud privilege to introduce my respected teacher, Professor Bhattacharya, who is former Professor of English, Kolkata University, and presently Chair Professor in the Postgraduate Department of English, Ramakrishna Mission Residential College, Autonomous, Narendrapur. Sir has been teaching English literature for the last 50 years. He had done his PhD on the middle class in the novels of Charles Dickens. His areas of interest are quite wide-ranging, and these include British, Romantic and Victorian literature, Australian literature, Indian literature in English, and English translation. He has written a number of articles on John Dryden, Alexander Pope, Dr. Samuel Johnson, Charles Lamb, and so on and so forth. Professor Bhattacharya is a prolific scholar. Apart from his erudition and scholarship, Professor Bhattacharya is immensely popular in the teaching fraternity for his student-friendly approach. He is accessible to and approachable by the students of disparate intelligence. His writings had been published in journals and books of national and international repute. He is notable for his lucid and effective presentation of any literary topic within the classroom situations. Professor Bhattacharya has also taught in the postgraduate department of English, Calcutta University, in the capacity of a visiting professor. Today, Professor Bhattacharya will talk on Robert Browning's poetry with special reference to The Last Word Together and My Last Duchess. Over to sir. Over to DPP sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Dinda, for your elaborate, rather exaggerated, rather hyperbolic comments and observations on my so-called scholarship and erudition. I am not as scholarly and I am not as erudite as Shottobroto. I am addressing him by his Christian name simply because he was or he is still my student. Shottobroto has exaggerated everything about me, and therefore I will now talk much about myself. I am a teacher. I will leave a teacher. I would love to be a teacher. I would like the company of the students. This much I can talk about myself. This much I can speak about myself. Now, today's topic, which has been decided by Professor Shottobroto Dinda, is Browning's poetry. So far as I remember, Browning's poetry with particular references. I am suggesting references to My Last Duchess and The Last Ride Together. Now, intentionally, instead of writing Browning's poetry, I have written down Browning poetry. Why Browning poetry? Because the word Browning, the name Browning, in this case, is much more adjectival in its function, because it is a special kind of poetry. It's a special kind of poetic experience on part of the readers. It is a special kind of poetic narrative on part of the poet himself. And therefore, I may begin my lecture, if you call it a lecture. I will begin my observations on Browning's poetry or on Browning poetry by mentioning one very famous statement made by the early 20th century, late 19th century, and early 20th century British critic. Many of you, possibly, the teachers amongst you, the students also might have heard his name. His name is G.K. Chesterton. Now, G.K. Chesterton, in his observations on Browning, has suggested that Browning is a great original. I am quoting the entire sentence as it is. Browning is a great original. Now, I will be straight away drawing your attention to that particular phrase, great original. What does Chesterton mean by this particular phrase, great original? I think, and you will perhaps agree with me, that by this particular phrase, great original, Chesterton means that Browning is an experimentalist. I am repeating. Browning is an experimentalist, an innovator, so to say, in the sphere of Victorian poetry. Why is he an experimentalist? an innovator in the sphere of Victorian poetry? There are two reasons behind this. Number one, because he innovated a new kind of poetic form. He not only innovated, he perfected. Not only innovated, but also perfected a new kind of poetic form and narrative, which is called, the dramatic monologue. In fact, we, who are both you and I, who are, and the majority of the members on this particular audience, those who are familiar, conversant with English literature, know very well that Browning, the name Browning, and the particular poetic genre called dramatic monologue are almost synonymous. Why synonymous? Because whenever we say dramatic monologue, we remember Browning. Whenever we recall the name of Browning, we remember that particular poetic genre called dramatic monologue. And therefore, our question is, what is dramatic monologue? How has Browning perfected it? Obviously, I will primarily try to define what dramatic monologue is. The various definitions, various descriptions, critical observations on dramatic monologue, on the generic features of the dramatic monologue have been given by the generations of critics and literary theorists. Why? Now, who are these critics? Who are these literary theorists who have tried to define, who have tried to, who have tried to designate the specific features, the specific generic features of dramatic monologue? Who are they? To begin with, obviously, I will mention the name of M.H. Abrams. My students, you have heard the name of M.H. Abrams. His very famous book, the very famous book on literary terms and glossary of literary terms, that is the title of the book. And M.H. Abrams has defined dramatic monologue in the following manner. I am reading the lines very slowly so that you might not miss the words. A monologue is a lengthy speech. I'm quoting from a glossary of literary terms. A monologue is a lengthy speech by a single person in a play when a character utters a monologue that expresses his or her private thoughts, and it is called a soliloquy. You know what soliloquy is. You know Macbeth's famous soliloquy. You know Hamlet's famous soliloquy. So it is called a soliloquy. A dramatic monologue, however, is not a component in a play. It is not a component in a play, but a type of lyric poem, which may have the following features. What are the features? Number one, a single person, a single individual, who is patently not the poet, utters the entire poem in a specific situation at a critical moment. A single person utters the entire poem in a specific situation at a critical moment. Secondly, this person addresses, interacts with one or more other people. For example, in my last Dutchess, the Duke of Ferrara addresses, interacts with an envoy, with an emissary, a messenger, who has come with the proposal of the second marriage of the Duke of Ferrara. Similarly, in the last Ride Together, the middle-aged lover is addressing his beloved. At the beginning and later on, he has addressed the readers of the poem. However, therefore, one or more other people. Third feature is the main principle controlling the poet's choice and organization. The main principle controlling the poet's choice and organization of what the lyric speaker says is to reveal to the reader, now be mindful, my dear students, is to reveal to the reader in a way that enhances its interest, the speaker's temperament and character. When the speaker speaks out, the inside of his personality, the ins and outs of his mind are revealed, are foregrounded. And therefore, the last and the most significant feature of dramatic monologue is to explore the drama of the human mind, the theater of the individual soul, the drama of the human mind, the theater of the individual soul. That is what M.H. Abrams seems to suggest about the dramatic monologue, generic features of dramatic monologue, in his very famous book, A Glossary of Literary Terms. Second definition, and by way of referring to that, I will also mention one very important book. It is a book of criticism on Robert Browning's poetry. Simple title. Title of the book is Robert Browning, edited by Philip. I need not give you the spelling. Philip Drew, D-R-E-W, Philip Drew. There, a very famous literary theorist, fictional theorist, Percy Lubbock, Percy, P-E-R-C-Y, Lubbock, L-U-B-B-O-C-K, has suggested that dramatic monologues spring from a mode of impassioned reflection, readily taking to itself a more and more dramatic shape, so much so that we hardly notice the difficulty it assumes when, in place of the drift and eddy of the meditation or soliloquy, it represents the spoken words. Important. The speaker's spoken words are addressed to a silent interlocutor. Interlocutor here means the auditor who is listening to him, who is sometimes reacting to his speech. Interlocutor. Therefore, according to Percy Lubbock, there will be the element of meditation, thought. There will be the element of the revelation of the human mind. There will be the element of the spoken words by the speaker addressed to a silent interlocutor. The third definition, welcome Chidananda, welcome. All right, I feel encouraged. All right, the third definition is given by another critic. His name is Davidprasad. I think that will be quite easy for you, because I'm addressing the entire speech lecture to my students and not to an erudite, not to a scholarly person like Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya. And therefore, my students, the third definition is that in a typical Browning dramatic monologue, you will find that a typical Browning dramatic monologue begins rather abruptly, suddenly, without any preparation on part of the readers, mental preparation on the part of the readers. All of a sudden, abruptly, we stand face to face with a character who is speaking, who is addressing the other speaker, the auditor, who remains silent. And he goes on speaking, second feature, in the context of a specific situation. The particular situation is specified. So against that specific situation, particular situation, the person concerned goes on speaking and speaking and speaking at random. Third is, through his speeches, through his utterances, we get an idea. Rather, we get an all-pervasive idea about his mood, about his thoughts, about his feelings, about his attitudes to life. That is about the man as a whole. As a result of this, fourth feature, the microcosm of one particular situation or context. I am repeating, the microcosm of one particular situation and context reveals the macrocosm of the personality of the speaker. The kind of technique which you will find is adopted sometimes by the short story writer, as for example, in Catherine Mansfield's story, The Fly, where in the context of a specific situation, the macrocosm of the character of the boss is revealed. And that is why the critic like David Shaw, D-A-V-I-D, has pointed out that dramatic monologue is nothing but, important phrase, I'm putting the phrase within double inverted commas. I would like you to put that. A versified short story. Versified short story. Short story in the form of verse. Now there may be other definitions of dramatic monologue as well. There are different scholarly essays, writings on Browning's technique of writing dramatic monologue. And in course of reading Browning, if you find further interest in Browning, I think you will go through those books. I will refer to them in course of my lecture one by one. But it is the introductory part of my lecture. My main concern is with the two poems. I'm mainly concerned with the two poems. One is My Last Dutchess and The Last Ride Together. Now, there is one common feature between these two poems. There are two common features between these two poems. Both are supposed to be dramatic monologues. And in the titles of both, there's the particular word last. But notwithstanding, in spite of, These apparent similarities between these two poems, insofar as their characteristic qualitative features are concerned, the last ride together and the last ride together and the last ride to my last touches and the last ride together, I suggest you may find two different types of poem, two different types of dramatic monologue. Let me begin with the first poem, My Last Touches. And I would like to begin from the very beginning. My Last Touches. This is a poem taken from the anthology, Dramatic Lyrics, written in the year 1842. Written in the year 1842. Now, look at the title, My Last Touches. And thereafter, beneath the main title, My Last Touches, there is the reference to one particular place. Reference to one particular place name, Ferrara. What is Ferrara about? What has it to do with the poem? What has it to do with the characters of the poem? We should know that primarily. The Ferrara is a city in the northern part of Italy. If you look at the European map, very intensely and intently, you will find that almost on the northern part of Italy, Italian map has the look of a boot, countryside shoe, the countryside boot of an agriculturalist. And this Ferrara is famous, or was famous, for its buildings built mostly by a family called, I do not know the exact pronunciation, but the spelling goes like this, E-S-T-E. Possibly should be pronounced as Este family. Este family. All these buildings were constructed during the time of the Italian Renaissance. Now, the Duke who is mentioned in this particular poem, according to critics, particularly according to James F. Laux, James, middle name পুরোটা দেওয়া নেই, James F. full stop, Laux, L-O-U-C-K-S. According to James F. Laux, the Duke in this particular poem has a close resemblance with Alfonso II. Alfonso II. Spelling Alfonso, A-L-F-O-N-S-O. Nothing to do with that famous mango. And therefore, Alfonso II, the fifth and the last Duke of Ferrara, who reigned from 1533 to 1597. 1533 to 1597. Now, this Alfonso II married Lucrezia, Z-I-A, Lucrezia, Lucrezia. Another very famous character, female figure in Browning's very remarkable poem, Andrea del Sarto, Lucrezia. However, this Alfonso II married Lucrezia, 14-year-old daughter of Cosimo do Medici or Medici, Medici. Our teacher, Professor Pilal, late Professor Pilal, used to pronounce the word Medici as Medici. And therefore, Cosimo do Medici, Duke of Florence. But shortly after her marriage, she died. And she died under mysterious circumstances. And right at this moment, the poem begins with the title, My Last Dutchess. I think, and you will agree with me, perhaps you will agree with me, that there is an additional emphasis on that possessive personal pronoun, my last Dutchess. My property, my ducal property, my dukedom, my castle, and my Duchess. Obviously, the word my before last Dutchess, in a very subtle manner, seems to draw our attention to the possessiveness, to the possessive instinct, authoritarian attitude of the Duke. Accordingly, throughout the poem, Browning continues to project the Duke as proud, several negative adjectives, epithets, adjectives having their negative connotations, may be attested with the character of the Duke. Proud, haughty, snobbish, authoritarian, sometimes dangerously self-assertive, greedy, and not only that, sometimes misogynistic. I've used so many adjectives. None of them appears to be quite complimentary. Proud, haughty, snobbish, authoritarian, dangerously self-assertive, greedy, and misogynistic. But in my opinion, that is my personal opinion, there is one redeeming feature in the character of the Duke. Like any Renaissance feudal lord of his time, this Duke was also a lover of art and architecture. That is one redeeming feature in his characteristic attitude to life, in his personality. And once again, I will refer to a book on Browning written by D. Shaw. David Shaw. The title of the book is The Dialectical Temper the dialectical temper, the rhetorical art of Robert Browning. The dialectical temper, the rhetorical art of Robert Browning. And in that book, David Shaw has suggested that, I'm quoting from the text, the complexity in the character of the Duke arises from the accuracy with which Browning reproduces the baffling contradictions. Browning represents the baffling contradictions of the aesthetic man. Up to this, এইটুকু লেখো, তারপর অনেক বড় sentence. You need not write it. His complexity arises from the accuracy with which Browning reproduces the baffling contradictions of the aesthetic man. Baffling contradictions, important phrase. Aesthetic man, another important phrase, in connection with the character delineation of the Duke in my last Dutchess. And this Duke is behaving like a drama producer, because the envoy, the emissary who has visited him with the proposal of his second marriage, he takes him along with him. He takes that man to the different rooms and chambers of his gigantic castle. He reaches that particular chamber, a room, where the portrait, oil painting of his large Dutchess is hanging down the wall. He draws the curtain like the director of a drama, like the producer of a drama. And then he draws the attention of the emissary, who is not only an auditor in this context, who is also a viewer, who is viewing everything, listening to his speech. And so, I'm reading some of the lines. I need not go through the entire poem and explain them one by one, because it needs at least two classes. I think Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya will agree with me, in order to complete the reading of this poem. And therefore, there is no scope for the textual analysis of the poem, but I shall be drawing your attention to some of the very important lines of the poem, which will obviously give you some important sidelights on the character of the Duke, the context of the poem, the theatrical atmosphere of the poem, almost a cinematic representation of the entire situation. And therefore, that's my last Dutchess. Notice, imagine, I am not the Duke, but imagine myself, but imagine me as the Duke, and you are one of the emissaries with the proposal of the second marriage. And he draws the attention of the emissary to that portrait of his last Dutchess hanging down the wall. That's my last Dutchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. Yes, as an appreciator, as a patron of art, architecture, I call that piece a wonder. It is a wonderful creation. It is a wonderful painting. And after having appreciated that fictitious painter, Fra Pandolf, that is Brother Pandolf, possibly a fictitious painter from the monastic order, just as there is Fra Lippo Lippi, Browning's another very famous poem, Here is also Fra Pandolf, that is Brother Pandolf, a fictitious painter from a monastic order. He has drawn that. He is responsible for the beautiful painting of my last Dutchess. Last Dutchess because she's dead. And then he continues to point out one by one, what was his last Dutchess like? What were his characteristic attributes? Was she snobbish? What did he behave like a typical Duchess? Or was he much democratic in a general attitude to life? Perhaps so. She was much democratic, much more liberal in her attitude to life, in her attitude to persons. And therefore, if anybody would praise her on the flimsy ground, she would blush like anything. Therefore, notice, if you have the text, notice the lines 16, 17, 18 onwards. Fra Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. And the Duke, who is the speaker, suggests, yes, I did. I used to give her very, very valuable, gorgeous gifts. Diamond necklace of 900 years old name, carrying the rich legacy, aristocracy of the Este family. But she would consider them as valuable, or she would never consider them more valuable than the white mule, the white mule, the white mule she rode with around the terrace. The bough of cherries, some officious fool broke in the orchard for her. So the Duke puts on the wry smile on the corners of her lips, of his lips, and suggests, those trifling, superficial, trivial gifts are equated with my gift, valuable gift. So much of liberality in her attitude to life, so much of her Catholicity of mind cannot be tolerated. I cannot tolerate it. And therefore, we come down to that blood-chilling line, which occurs at line number 45. According to the Duke, the major offense of the last Dutchess was that she would smile at anybody. She would smile at the Duke, she would smile at any courtiers, courtier of the ducal court, she would smile at any member of the riffraff. This cannot go on permanently. And therefore, what did I do? I gave commands. Then all smiles stopped together. A blood-chilling sentence. May have two meanings. Two meanings, the commands were that she should be put to death, number one. Or maybe a secondary meaning, rather another not so blood-chilling meaning, that is, he might have had her shut up in a convent. He sent her to a convent. That may be another meaning. But I think the first meaning is more pertinent, more in keeping with the personality of the Duke. So why does he say all these things? Why does he draw the attention of the emissary, of that envoy, to that behavioral pattern of his first Duchess? Because it is a kind of forewarning to his second Duchess. Under no circumstances she should behave like that. She should be like a Duchess. She should be aristocratic. She should be highbrowed. She should be snobbish. She should talk to others from the high pedestal of feudal pride and glory. That is a kind of forewarning. And as he steps down, together with that emissary, in one corner there is the statue of the Neptune taming a seahorse. Taming a seahorse. Taming a seahorse with his whip. The suggestion is that if my second Duchess behaves in an errant manner, disobeying my dictates, my orders, then I will be like Neptune and I will continue to tame her in the most cruel and heartless manner. Now, my students, you can understand how Browning presents graphically the entire context of the poem. How he situates the entire poem theatrically, almost the cinematic filmic representation of the situation. As it steps down, together with the emissary, you can hear the creaking sound of his shoes. So, the poem, in my opinion, My Last Duchess poem is as lifelike. The characterization, poem itself, everything in the poem is, I'm once again quoting from G.K. Chesterton. G.K. Chesterton used this phrase in connection with the Dickens. That is Browning's characterization of the Duke, Browning's presentation of the particular situation in this particular poem is as lifelike as life itself. He is presenting to the readers the ethos, the atmosphere, the spirit of the feudal times of the Renaissance Italy. So, history is fictionalized. Fiction is historicized in this particular poem. Within this short time, because our time is very short, I will have to take up another poem and another speaker is waiting for you. Therefore, with your permission, I may pass on to The Last Ride Together. Now, The Last Ride Together is a poem which is taken from, which is taken from, let me consult the book. Last Ride Together is a poem taken from the collection, the dramatic, from Men and Women. From Men and Women, published in the year 1835. That collection is named as Men and Women, and from that poem, The Last Ride Together. Last Ride Together is one of the poems in that collection. There are other beautiful poems in that collection. When you will further grow up academically, intellectually, if you find interest in Browning, you will read Fra Lippo Lippi, Evelyn Hope, By the Fireside, Child Roland to the Dark Tower Came, Andrea del Sarto, A Grammarian's Funeral, One Word More from Men and Women, together with The Last Ride Together. So The Last Ride Together. Once again, we are to concentrate on the title, Last Ride Together. Now, in the title itself, so what is the context of the poem? My opinion is a man who has reached the middle age has been rejected by his young beloved. And therefore, after his rejection, with nervous expectation, with some kind of diffidence in his mind, whether his prayer will be granted or not, whether his prayer will also be rejected as he himself was rejected. So with that kind of feeling, with that kind of feelings, the opposite contradictory feelings of expectation and frustration, of joy and melancholy, these opposite contradictory feelings seem to have been suggested very beautifully in the title. And the poem straight away begins, as I told you, without any preparation on part of the readers. We are confronted with a lover. He is talking to his beloved. Then, dearest, since it is so, since now at length my fate I know, since nothing all my love avails, since all my life seemed meant for fails, since this was written and needs must be, my whole heart rises up to bless your name in pride and thankfulness. Pride because once upon a time I was your lover. And thankfulness because you have not dilly-dallied, you have not played gamble with my feelings. Straight away, in a straightforward manner, you have told me that you do not like me and therefore rejected me. So I remain grateful to you for that reason. Thankfulness. Take back the hope you gave. And just it happens. In case of any rejected lover, I claim only a memory of the same. আমাকে তোমার স্মৃতি নিয়ে বাঁচতে দাও। And this beside, if you will not blame, you'll live for one more last ride with me. So, one more last horse ride with you. তারপরে second stanza, the reaction of the mistress. And ultimately, she accepts the proposal. And as she accepts the proposal, he says, notice how precisely, but how suggestively Browning writes these two lines, a few lines. When pity would be softening through, fixed me, a breathing while or two, with life or death in the balance. And then there is a significant colon, pause. Right. Shows she has given the green signal, and the blood replenished me again. And then the typical Browning lover with that obstinate optimism. In the last line of the second stanza, who knows but the world may end tonight. The world may end tonight in the midst of my victory, of my fulfillment, not in the midst of my failure. In fact, the poem The Last Ride Together may be divided into three broad sections. The first four stanzas constitute the first section. Proposal for the last rite, sanctioned by his beloved, and then their ride begins. And he is extremely elated, happy. And he is suggesting that people will say, my friends may say, had I said that, had I done this, stanza 4, had I done this, so might I again, so might I miss. Might she have loved me? Just as well she might have hated, who can tell? Where had I been now, if the worst befell? But here we are riding, she and I. Up to this, the first section. And the second section begins from stanza 5. And it ends at stanza number 8, 5 to 8. Second section of the poem, where the rejected lover is a sublime egotist. That is the exact phrase. My opinion goes like that. That is the exact phrase which I would like to apply to the rejected lover right at this moment, from stanza 5 to stanza number 8. He is a sublime egoist, because he's suggesting that he is more successful than the so-called successful men on the earth. A statesman, a soldier, a poet, a sculptor, a man of music. That's a musician. All of them are illustrious, eminent. Some of them are illustrious, eminent in their respective fields of achievement. But I am much more successful than all of them. Because a statesman is forgotten after his death. A soldier's doing, nobody remembers a soldier's doing. Nobody remembers a poet. A poet creates poetry, rhythm. He explores the beautiful things of life, presents them in his poetry. But after his death, what does he get in his old age? Poverty and sickness. And not only old age, poverty, sickness, premature old age. You fail to reach your idea of sublime in your poetry, in your personal life. You have failed to reach your goal in your personal life, O poet, just as the sculptor had done, just as the man of music has failed. But I have become successful because my last request has been granted, and therefore I am much more successful than anybody else, than a musician, than a sculptor, than a poet, than a statesman, than a soldier. So, and then in the last two stanzas, he turns out to be a philosopher. In fact, Browning's rejected lover combines in his philosophy of life the Western, the defiance, courage of the Western philosophy with the calm, quiet submissiveness, self-surrender to the dictates of God, of the Oriental philosophy. In the last stanza, the rejected lover gives his idea of heaven. Heaven, where the perfection of earthly life, where everything which is perfect in earthly life is eternalized. The pleasures and joys of life have their never-ending continuity in the life in heaven. That is our Oriental philosophy. That is our Oriental philosophy. I shall not suggest Hindu philosophy, because the particular word Hindu, etc., is controversial in the present context. And therefore, Oriental philosophy. In fact, in Kathopanishad, we come to know from the reading of that particular Upanishad, we come to know that heaven represents life after death, that is, heaven represents the perfection of the life on earth. That is what Nachiketa comes to know from the god of death, Jama. I do not know whether Browning has gone through this part of the Upanishad. But in Browning's philosophy of life, these two delightful contradictions are always to be found. And therefore, from a frustrated lover in the first stanza to an optimist philosopher in the last stanza. That is the characteristic development of the lover's personality in this particular poem. And so, if in my last touches, exploration of the complexity of human psychology is Browning's concern, in my last write together, Browning attempts to familiarize with the broad aspects of his attitude to life, of his philosophy of life. The attitude to life, the philosophy of life, this broad feature of his philosophy of life is also suggested in a grammarian's funeral. The disciples in the grammarian's funeral remember the words of their guru, the grammarian, and they suggest the guru used to say, "They live now for dogs and apes. Man is," then in capital form, "man is forever." We find the same echo, almost the same echo, in Rabbi Ben's opening stanza. "Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be." So, the last write together ultimately attempts to be a poem where psychology and philosophy are blended together in the most harmonious and proportionate manner. So I come to the end of my rather sketchy lecture on Browning's poetry. At the same time, I wish that I should meet you personally. I think Shotto Broto will make arrangement for that when this Corona time will be over. But when, we do not know. Obviously, not in thunder, lightning, and in rain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your informative, insightful, enriching, enlightening, and lively deliberation on Robert Browning's poetry, with special reference to my last Dutchess and the last write togethers. But there are so many questions asked by the teachers and the students in YouTube chat box, but as we are running short of time and because of the constraint of time, I have decided to ask you 2 or 3 questions on Browning's poetry. Our esteemed colleague, Professor Satyakam Ojha, has put 2 important questions. And the first one, the first question asked by Professor Satyakam Ojha, our esteemed colleague in the Department of English, Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram. His question: why does Browning set most of his poems in medieval and Renaissance Europe rather than in the Victorian period?
My answer, I think Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya will agree with me that in that respect, Browning is not Victorian but romantic, because he wants to go back to the past. He wants to reveal, he wants to revive the past. He wants to live, he wants to relive the past in his poems. Moreover, Italy, particularly medieval Italy, Renaissance Italy, was the enormous source of interest to Browning. He wrote several poems against that particular background. I think that is the reason. In fact, he went to Italy. He went to Italy for his marriage. He ran away to Italy for his marriage. And therefore, Italy was in his heart. Italy was in his heart, and thereafter, it was there. It was stored in his poetic brain, poetic imagination. That is the reason, I think. But this question should be answered, should be discussed by me more elaborately with your esteemed colleague. When we will meet together personally, I will talk to him later.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. The second question asked by Professor Ojha is: how much has the tradition of the anti-hero been passed on to mold the imagination of subsequent poets and writers of our times? Many heroes do kill their wives in contemporary novels. This is the second question asked by Professor Ojha.
Please repeat the question.
How much has the tradition
of
anti-hero been passed on to mold the imagination of subsequent writers and poets of our times? Many heroes do kill their wives in contemporary novels.
All right. In fact, Professor Ojha has suggested rightly, but Browning's concept of anti-hero is to be found in this poem as well as in Porphyrius Lover, another poem. Then, in some of the Victorian poems, in some of the Victorian novels, Victorian fiction, I think Victorian fiction, wife killing is not a very, very habitual incident, because Victorians were much more busy in keeping the harmony of the family, harmony of the household, than in breaking the harmony. But I will have to answer that question from Ojha, very good question. I think I will find time in order to answer that question later on. Right.
Thank you, sir. Another question asked by Pooja Ghosh. The question is: why is Robert Browning so interested in the Renaissance?
Once again, because he was a man who had inordinate love from the Renaissance past, in the sense, because it is not only glorious, it has also the contradictions of its own. If you study the Renaissance history, social history, political history, economic history, you will find the various contradictions. And Browning has noticed that kind of contradictions in his own time, in the Victorian time. Being a Victorian, therefore, he goes back to the Renaissance time. And secondly, because being a Victorian, part of his creative self is romantic. And that is why he goes back to the Renaissance.
So last question asked by Mukul Bikash Bera. Is there any difference between these two poems of Browning as far as Browning's treatment of philosophy is concerned?
Treatment of philosophy is particularly visible, is particularly clear, and particularly visible, particularly perceptible rather, in the last strike together. But in that poem, My Last Touches, if you consider it philosophy at all, that is the philosophy of feudalism. How to look upon life. How to look upon life from the high pedestal and not to step down to the commonness of life. That is the kind of feudal philosophy, which was part and parcel of the Italian Renaissance. That is being suggested by Browning in this poem. And in this poem, there is specific philosophy of a philosopher who attempted to fuse together Orientalism with Occidentalism. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to request Professor Biplab Das, our departmental colleague, to offer vote of thanks for the speaker of the technical session. Over to Professor Das.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. It is really a thought-provoking and... Am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Davidprasad, sir, please unmute yourself. Davidprasad, sir, please unmute. You are not audible, sir. Davidprasad, sir, you are not audible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It is really a thought-provoking and insightful deliberation on Browning. The way you have mentioned all the details of Browning's poetry with special reference to My Last Dutchess and The Last Eye Together with simple and lucid language is simply brilliant. And you have covered almost all the areas of Browning's poetry, ranging from his use of dramatic monologue technique, his oriental philosophy of life, and in this troubled time, we can certainly keep faith in Browning's favorite idea that man can pluck the sting out of failure and make of it something better than success. And in this pandemic situation, I think we can expect that the world would be once again intensely beautiful. And this particular poem, The Last Day Together, has been always a source of motivation and inspiration to me. There are some lines like, fail I alone in words and deeds, why all men strive and who succeeds, and what you get in this world is petty in comparison with the undone past, and at the same time, the instant made eternity. So I think our students and participants have been extremely benefited from this discussion. In this respect, I want to thank our Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, for his constant support and guidance. I also want to thank our coordinator of IQAC, Dr. Rimi Roy, and convener of this online special lecture, Professor Shotobrata Dinda Sir, for organizing this. I also want to convey my vote of thanks to all the faculty members of the Department of English, all teaching and non-teaching staff of Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram, and the technical support team also for their support and cooperation. And I must thank our students and active participants without whom this online special lecture would not have been successful. And I want to add one more thing to you, sir. Please come to our college after this pandemic situation. We would like to organize many more such seminars or webinars, whatever it is. Please, we expect your gracious presence, sir, in future. So till now, we will bear in our hearts the music that you played on in this 1 hour. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And now I would like to hand over the stage to our convener, Professor Satyapradinanda sir, to welcome our second speaker, Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya. Professor Bhattacharya is a Professor of English, Rabindra Bharati University. Over to you, Satyapradinanda sir.
We are going to start second technical session of today's special online lectures, and in this technical session we have Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya. It is both pleasure and privilege for me to introduce Professor Bhattacharya, who is presently Professor, Head of the Department of English, and former Dean of Faculty of Arts, Rabindra Bharati University, Kolkata. Professor Bhattacharya started his teaching career as a whole-time lecturer in the Department of English, Scottish Church College, Calcutta. He taught there from 1982 to 1984. Then he joined Rabindra Bharati University as a full-time professor in November 1984. He became a full professor in March 2001. He was head of the Department of English, RBU, for as many as 4 terms. He served as acting Vice Chancellor several times during the permanent incumbent's absence. He stood first in first class in English, MA, from Calcutta University in 1980. Professor Bhattacharya completed his PhD on George Meredith, a major Victorian English novelist. He was the recipient of the Olive Radick Senior Literary Prize for his scholarly article on Walt Whitman from Indian Association of American Studies in 2002. Among his published books, special mention may be made of Meredith's Problem Novels, 1995, Whitman's Poetic Lives, 2001, Select Poetry, 2007, of his edited books and journals. Special reference should be made to Hemingway Centennial Issue, Departmental Journal of English, RBU, 1998, The Tagore Reader, an anthology of Tagore's writings, 2006, The American Literary Pageant, IAAS, UK and India, New English Literatures, RBU, 2007. Professor Bhattacharya has been a visiting fellow to North Bengal, Tripura, Vishwabharati, and Vidyasagar University, respectively. He was an honorary guest faculty in postgraduate English department, Calcutta University from 1985 to 2004. He successfully directed the English Language Learning Special Program (RBU) meant for the overseas scholars from Japan's Shoka University in 2006 and 2007. His articles had been published in journals of national and international repute. He visited English Department, University of Liberal Arts, Dhaka, Bangladesh as a resource person in 2019. He delivered lectures as resource person in innumerable seminars, symposia, workshops, orientation programs, and refresher courses. Today, we are greatly privileged and proud to get a scholar, a teacher in the true sense of the term. Professor Bhattacharya will speak on metaphysical poetry with special reference to Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress. Over to Professor Bhattacharya. Sir. Hello, sir.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right.
Perfectly audible. You are both audible and visible.
Acha, thank you so much. I stand greeted and feted. Thank you very much for remembering me. I was skulking in a corner as long as my dear Dada, my elder brother like, and my mentor like Dada, Professor Davidprasad Bhattacharya, for whom I have got but the profoundest of reverences across decades. Our friendship, if it could be called a friendship between a senior academician and a learner who was novitiating at the beginning of his career. I have already nearly spent 39 years of teaching, almost, yes, 38 plus, but sir is way ahead of me and above me. It's like desire of the moth for the star. I'm always looking up to my elder brother for inspiration, resources. There are but very few people whom we can turn round to for enlightenment. As I've been taking on years, I'm past 60 right now, a good old man. But when I look to Devida, I still get refreshed every time. This is exactly how a person has to carry himself or herself, steeped in studies, but without any hubris or ego about it. That's it. Learning gives you a softness. How tenderly does he but come down and condescend to the needs of students? And he could really hurl at us brickbats and mortars of real dried up pedagogy and scholastic jargon and really kill us off with everything. But he doesn't go that way at all. At the very beginning, he very succinctly lips it up, that I will be speaking, lisping for my children. Suffer little children to come unto me. Of such is the kingdom of God. That was Jesus Christ, how he, in his angelic holy innocence, he spoke of, and how, you must have read Blake, where little lamb who made thee. The child, the cherub-faced child is actually Jesus Christ, who is speaking, chiming so soft. Anyway, it is always a very tough task to come down at number 2 position when the opening batsman has already scored a ton with sixers and fours and nice glances and perfect reverse flicks, etc. That was what Devida has done and has left me utterly in a real quicksand. Quicksand, quicksand is a sand where you never know that you will perish once you tread upon it. So naturally, let me try. Ours is but always the job of a seconder, like Gloucester behind King Lear. A copy of the original. Anyway, I shall not be whiling away time further. Let me try and press up or press in whatever little kind of accumulations I may have got Not that twist by mistake is my daily regimen. It's not part of my diet, but it is mentally there. Yes, sometimes I have come across the poem, and I've been charged by my students, sir, please let us hear something from you. So I shall be very peripatetic. Peripatetic is perambulating. I shall be going hither and thither, sometimes weltering in a mix of indirections, and like Shakespeare's famous utterance, through indirections I shall be finding out the direction. Now, coy is a decoy. Coy is a decoy because the lady is she originally coy, or is she pretending to be coy? Using it as a decoy to keep the lover, the male lover, the jumpy, the fidgeting, the never to be, belted, almost bolting towards the lady, right now, immediate. This is an exact psychological approximation of the the male instinct, which is burgeoning, which is on the rise, billowing up. Oh, lady, I will jump at you right now. I shall not be kind of debarred. I shall not be prevented from reaching you. And that is the immediacy, the warmth, and the heat of the moment. Oh, right now you are so sweet. I am looking at you. I'm getting impatient. I just can't bear to, stand up like a servant, like a waiter in a hotel before you, oh, sweet lady, with all my mumbo jumbos of saying that I love you, I love you, I love you. And you will be indolently kind of swaying on, oh, I like it, go on, go on. No, I will have you. I will physically possess you. So that's how it is. Look at the dramaticity. Look at the veracity of the actual psychological truth, psychological veracity in the situation. We say kudos to Andrew Marvell because such a brilliant, jolly, such a poem coming alive with the immediacy, with the feeling of it, hic in Latin, is there. The two young people, male and female, they are sitting. Maybe, perhaps, they have gone away to a secluded, solitary corner into the lover's alley or by some outside, I don't know where. We are free to imagine. And then the lady is resisting, which is very reasonable. We can laugh our belly, we can burst our belly by laughing, rending it from side to side. Ha ha. I want to love you. And look at the contrariety, look at the contrariness in the definition each of them attaches to the term love. Love is a very, very inclusive, treacherous, layered kind of a construct. When somebody says, I love you, God knows what he or she means. Because if it's a loaded term. If you are a sylphic, a pastoral kind with large eyelashes, long eyes, always dreamy and languorous, then by love you think of sweet baby chords. I love you, I love you, I love you. But if you are a real hot male, when you say I love you, you mean, what he means. I'm not wording it out. So here is the collision between India and China, collision between the male and female, collision, split between andro and gyno. And that is the comedy. The comedy of the situation is that two people are meaning at cross purposes. We don't get to hear the lady. We find the boy chattering away loudly. And the lady says, oh, please, hold on, hold your breath. Don't come any nearer, you. That is very naughty of you. I don't approve it. This is a satire on the so-called puritanic, very chaste, very genteel kind of behavior. Now, this is This will be mocked in 18th century, in the next century, mocked at by the anti-sentimental comedists, like also in the Restoration comedies, Wycherley and Vanbrugh and Congreve, etc. Marvell's contemporaries, they were laughing their hearts out, their lungs out, looking at this not entirely genuine, a little disingenuous. What happens with women? Please, girls, forgive me for coming off my daughters and calling a spade a spade a spade. Otherwise, love is not a loving exercise. It's an unlovely exercise. It's a dry, docketed talk between two wooden puppets. There is everything but love. When two living lovers with their pulse pulsating and their body youthful, their mind ready, when they love volubly, voluptuously, with full girth of their energy, etc. Now, Marvell spins all this into the poem. It is a seduction poem, apparently. I say apparently because when I will finish, hopefully, I will once again check the register. Is it a seduction poem? Oh my God, it is a reduction poem also. It reduces the lady. It smashes her claims, almost the personality of the lady, to smithereens. Exactly when a frustrated boy, a male lover, repeatedly tries to charge in and it's getting, prevented. He is stopped. Don't come on. Stop there. Stop there. And then the witty lover, who is so full, so agog with feeling of love. Love is lust. The lover is a pagan heart. He is a young male who refuses to be Christianized. Christian in the metaphorical sense. Christian is being chaste. Never do anything evil. Never do anything immoral. Anything sexually loose. Anything sexually reprovable. But the boy is a reprobate. So here is a cultural clash. Marvell is staging a cultural clash between two ethoses, the Christian, the hallowed, conservative Christian ethos of doing everything in the God-sanctioned way. The marriage psalm, the Anglican marriage psalm, PSALM, the common prayer psalm, the marriage mantra, the marriage saying, is taken from Luke and Isaiah. You must have read about it when you went through Shakespeare's sonnet number 118, 116, right? That love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. That is what the priest advises. Husband, marry the girl in the name of God. And by loving her, you remember you are actually loving God. Take care of her. Be gentle. Be absolutely pure-hearted. And the wife is also advised, you accept husband in the name of God. So this is absolutely playing a Christian game, very pious-hearted, with a pious visage, pious front, and the body almost sanitized and odorated. Nothing vulgar, nothing low must come in. But the point is, the earth and heaven are irreconcilable. The earth has a claim, the flesh has a claim, like Hamlet, who says, oh, this too solid flesh will melt. The flesh demands love of a different kind, which you can meet in Donne's Good Morrow, for example. Donne is using love in the sense of lust, physical lust, in the first stanza. And the lady is definitely very, very coy, and she's flushing. What do you mean? And Donne is saying, yes, I thought of other girls, but that was your dream. I was in my dream, I was looking around for you, and I was touching her and her and her. In dream, in the dark, I was touching every girl. Yes, I did whatever was to be done, but that was very ill, that was very evil on my part. But I did it with the best of my minds. I was in my dream. Dream is not morally culpable. I was not myself. I was in my dream. I was looking for you, and I touched everybody, every girl. And I was asking her, do you happen to be that she I'm looking for? Looking for? Ultimately, as a worshipper gets close to God or goddess, I got to you. This is how Donne is very mischievous. It is a cat and mouse game. This is a love game where Donne is wooing by swearing falsehoods in the name of truth. I wander by my truth. The same technique is being used by Marvell. He is wooing the lady by falsehood, but looking to be, posing to be very true. And that true, looking true, is a mockery of the Christian ethics of being really true within and without. And the entire first strophe, the poem has three movements. Joan Bennett in Five Metaphysical Poets, those of you who may have read the poem will know, she has already pointed out how later on Hegel came up in the you know late 18th century and also into the early 19th century. Hegel was talking of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, that triadic structure, which is inherent there in a logical system, deductive logic, which says syllogism. Syllogism says if A is like B and B is like C, then A is like C. So the common term in the first two premises, B is omitted, and there is a union conceived of between the first premise and the third conclusionary premise. So that's how it is. Marvell apparently uses this as a wit, war a wit on the lady, because the lady is, after all, a little naive compared to the fraudulent, fraudulent, very quick, almost as, the blade of a sword, as full of sharp edges as a razor or a blade. The young male lover is using his wit as a sword, operating it on the lady. The lady also doesn't get the feel of it towards the beginning. Therefore, the entire first trophy apparently indolently begins on a note of languor, because the lady is always intent on prolongation of this love parlance. You must have seen Boshanto Bilap. The young people, I don't know how many of you have seen. You will find this is called the wooing. And wooing is the most romantic part in a love episode. And it is the most difficult part. You have to win the lady's mind over, usually in a patriarchal androcentric pattern. Not nowadays. Nowadays we are sometimes luckier. Sometimes women woo us, and we have to be rather wise about how to respond. So we are into the postmodern, post philosophical session, but right in those halcyon days when it was a feudal, just emerging out of the medieval age, that was the custom that a lady was supposed to sit on looking like an angel. She has to be a diva, a heavenly girl. In the sonnets of Sidney, in the sonnets of Spenser, in the sonnets of Decker, Daniel, or Shakespeare, or even others, some of them, you will find the lady is immaculate, almost conceived in terms of Virgin Mary. The mariolatry is very much there. The lady must not vulgarize. The lady must not speak beneath dignity, anything below dignity. So the lady is enjoying the session, but it is a lambent, indolent exercise. It's like a fan. The young lover must go on saying, I love you, like a gentle, delicate fan, fanning on the humor of the lady. So archly satirized by Sheridan in, yes, Lydia Languish, for example, uh, and also uh, yes, satirized by Sheridan in Lydia Languish, in the Rivals, perhaps, if I remember correct. So this is the stereotypical presentation of the image of a woman. A woman, even when she is falling in love, must sit on like the very typical epitome of virtue. She mustn't allow. If the lady allows the young boy to touch her, at that moment the lady falls in the eye of the society. The lady becomes impure. And the lady has been taught, has been reared in that background, in that atmosphere. So the lady says, no, 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 nay, nay, don't touch me, nay. That is how women say softly. And the young man knows that if I but touch the lady, my case is gone. I will be rejected. So I have to eat the cake and have it too. How do I do? Then he starts wooing the lady by playing with her the cat and mouse game, as as Maren, yes, Maren Sophie spoke of it. It is the cat and mouse game, and the cat and mouse game arches itself, niches itself in the form of a rhetorical exercise of logic chopping, but it is a faulty logic, is a false logic, where not truly A is like B and B is like C, then A is like C. This neat, logically sustainable pattern is not maintained. The boy plays it false at the middle. Anyway, but the lady is not so quick, the lady is not so fast as to keep up pace with the fraudulent flattery of the boy. Right? So let me read up the lines if I can manage. Although Devida was very wise, it was very sapient on his part, he says, I will not analyze. But here, poor mistress beckons unto me, saying, please read me out aloud, otherwise the mystery and the fun of it will be lost. Had we but whirled enough and time, had we is the actual leash. That is the real spindle on which the entire poem, the fulcrum of the poem is had we. If we had got, so the entire poem is a make believe. If we had got, but we haven't got. That is the reality. But women, young women, they do not live in the reality. The young lover assumes, hoping that the young woman is a little sentimental, he plays it. And had we but whirled enough and time, this coyness, this bashfulness, this unwillingness, this modesty, coyness is ramifiable in so many ways. All this applies. But coy also means a false, assumption of a false purity by an inherently coquettish mind and disposition. You are playing, no, 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 don't touch me, but you are disingenuous. You are not real. You want the man to come close, but you says, oh, don't touch me. So that is also a dubious kind of felicitation of the girl. Is he praising the lady, or is he really, putting paid to her assumption of virtue? He is mocking at her virtue also, because it is the coyness, the cold, no, don't touch me kind of refusal, which is putting up a bar before him. This coyness lady were no crime. Why crime? What is there in love to talk about crime? Yes, lady, you are so unjust. You are killing me. I am dying, and you are a homicide. You are killing a person, and you will be. This is done. This is done. Think of Donne's poem in the Flea. Think of Donne in the Apparition. Lady, you are refusing me. I will die, and I will come back to you as a ghost. So that's how there is. Marvell was a very, very able child of Donne poetically, and there is a real competition between the father and the son. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. The lady is always whining. Where is the hurry? Where is the hurry? Why do you want to consummate? Why do you want to physically possess me? Go on. You love me. That's very good. I also love you. But let us sit apart. It will take place another day. Not today. Not today. Please fend it off. Please put it forward. So the boy is mocking. Yes, yes. If we had been immortal, I am also a very pure-hearted fellow. I love you, not for your beauty, not for your physical parts. I am a real lover. Believe me, I am the way you expect me to be? I'm a spiritual lover. I love you with all my spirit. I am ready to go on standing on for you for ages. Only had we got world enough and time, everything scurries back, everything rivets back to this original spindle. Had we but the imputed point is, sorry, lady, you are actually running after impossibilities. This cataloging of impossibilities, which the lover will be doing in this stanza, the cataloging of impossibilities, all hyperboles, all exaggerations, these are mock serious hyperboles, which are actually apparently pleasing the lady, because lady believes in these things. Yes, aha ha ha. If we had got 1,000 years, we will be perambulating, we will be walking down the lover's lane forever and ever and ever. The lady thinks, and the boy says, never and never and never. I want to, put an end to this walking down every day alley, going down and coming back, never getting hold of you. This is actually a tantalus situation, tantalizing. Lady, you are so close, but I can't have you. So he is mocking. We would sit down and think. You just remember the the comic pictures of medieval lovers, very pure-hearted, that depict the Kartises. Pure lovers, when they were shown on picture, they were shown very chivalrously. The boy is a chivalrous fellow. He is a knightly man. He has a knight's heart. He stands at a decent distance and he inclines forward to the lady like a servant. And the lady, with her hand, on the grass or maybe something, and her head a little inclined away, looking towards the sky, etc. That picture is actually verbally being reproduced by Marvell, and Marvell's contemporary readers will be laughing of, ha ha, we can get to see the poem. We would sit down very slowly. It's a slow motion picture in cinema. They will sit down, and sitting down will take them 100 years, maybe, and think which way to walk. And before walking, because in real life, lovers do spiritedly come, and they look around and say, let us, hush, hush, go off to a solitary corner, and they quickly go away. Eh, but here, they have infinite time. Where is the hurry? So they will think, do we take the first lane that leads leftward? Or do we take this other lane? So whole day goes on. They think of which lane, which road to take, and pass our long love's day. You look at the liquids, the vowels create assonances. The long vowels, long love's day, and which way to walk. You see, there is a languorous stretching up of time. Time is being stretched out to infinity. Marvell is using vocalic magic, and the long liquids, long love's day, they create through their vocal verbal magic, they create almost a kind of living, willing suspension of disbelief. Yes, we have come on into that world of eternity. The lady with closed eyes is imagining. Let us imagine. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find. It's an utter mockery. Usually, all these telltales, all these so-called very pure medieval and 15th, 16th century stories of romances. For example, Lodge's Rosalinda and Green's Pandosto. Those of you who have heard them, these are those never never stories where lovers actually play their love game according to the textbook, and they are pastoral in a sylvan setting. They spend their time languorously, idly, very lazily. And the ladies and the lovers go away to exotic settings. So the lady always thinks of Indian Ganges. Yes, yes, he will walk, slowly walk and walk. It will take thousands of years for you to go away to the Ganga, the Ganges. In Marvell's times, the first few, travelers were coming to India from the West, from Europe. And it was part myth, part reality. Ganges was an idyllic river where gold and rubies and emeralds were strewn all around on the banks of the river, in the bed of the river, all across the river. All these, precious stones were found. The lady will be going to the Ganges and she will be idly busy in picking up and looking for rubies. Ruby, by its color, is also very conducive to the love color. Okay, and I, by the tide of Humber, tide here in a loose sense, the tide and ebb, and the tide also in the second sense means the rush of waves, the water flow. I shall sit down by the side of Humber. Humber is an English river, and look at the wit, look at the fraudulent wit, and the Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude in German. The term is Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude meaning the joy you get out of seeing somebody getting tortured, somebody punished. The lady is punished. Go away to India, walking, and go. So the lady is given the onerous job, the burdensome job of walking across continents. And what has he reserved for himself? The boy like Ganesha of our Indian myth. The Ganesha, while the Kartikeya is touring all across the globe, the Ganesh avatar, he is wise enough to tour around the mother and sit in the lap. So here also the boy says, I am a local fellow of a local brew. I am not so lucky like you to go and see faraway places, other continents, other countries. I shall be sitting by the side of Humber. I will be complaining. That is in Indian English, in Bengali and Hindi, viraha, the pangs of separation. I shall be complaining about, oh, what an ill luck I am really tortured with. My lady has gone away. Love you 10 years before the flood. I would love you. Yes, I am a real masculine and a brave fellow. I am ready to love you from the beginning of the creation. Because 1656 years after the creation, God created, according to the biblical history in the Genesis, God created the world 6,000 years back. And after 1600 odd years, there was a heavy flood, deluge, and the Noah's Ark, etc., etc. I shall start loving you from before Noah's Ark. So Noah had preserved 2 human beings in his ark. Ark is a boat. So you can imagine, they are the 2 people who have been existing, who had existed before Noah's Ark, and they had gotten into Noah's Ark and survived. Otherwise, how could they have loved from before the flood? So I would have been ready to go on loving you from almost since the beginning of the creation, and getting back nothing but no refusal from you, still not wavering from my resolve of loving you so wonderfully. I would love you from 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please meaning if you are in a mind to, I give you the right to go on refusing me till the conversion of the Jews. Oh my goodness, Marvell has taken into stride all the teleology, the biblical teleology, from the beginning of the creation to the end of the creation. And not only teleology, teleontology, the progression of human being, the march of civilization. And that is what the entire creation's history will be, the waiting period for the lover. Look at the unbearable part, how entire argument has been twisted out to an utterly, to an unimaginably long, lengthy, risible, laughable caricature of love, an expression of love wait. So naturally, till the conversion of the Jews. When the Jews only converted, that is the love, That is the joke. The Jews will never be converted to Christianity. Will the Indians, will ever love the Chinese at the battlefield? Almost never. No possibility. So the Jews who killed Jesus Christ and Jews who have been, always in quarrel with the Christians, they will never, never, never turn Christians. But then the New Testament says that on the doomsday, on the last day of judgment, on the last day of judgment, they will get reformed. So that's how you are a Jew lady and I am a Christian lover. You see, the lady was complaining, you are not Christian. Be Christian, don't touch me. And he says, you are that Jew, I am Christian. Because what is the unsaid part? That everything is there, below the lines, beneath the lines. What is the essence of Christianity? The essence of Christian religion is love. And the lover says, I am Christian because I love you. And lady, you are non-Christian because you are without love. Ha ha. That is the Lord. Okay? And then there is that amorous mathematics. That amorous mathematics, arithmetical love. That osculatory loving. Osculatory arithmetic comes from Catullus. Catullus is a early Renaissance, medieval Italian actually, but he wrote in late Latin. Catullus is a medieval poet who followed the ancient Greek and Roman tradition of writing amorous verses, and he was first who spoke of mathematical, kiss on the lips, kiss on the eyes, kiss on the forehead, etc. Milis centum, dainda centum, carpobasia. That was what in Latin Catullus says. And he was calling out to his beloved. What was her name? Lesbia. Vivamus. Vivamus meaning come. Vivamus mea lesbia. Atque amenus. Soles occidit. Sol meaning sun. Soles occidit et redire possunt. The sun is setting in the west. Time is going away. Nobis cum semel et brevis lux. Taken everything, for sure that brevis lux. Light is very brief. Evening is coming on. Evening metaphorically, death. Our time will be out. And noctes una perpetua dormienda. Night is one perpetual dormitory. Dormitory meaning sleep, which was paraphrased by Ben Jonson in Volpone. Come, my Celia, let us prove the fruits of love. Time will not long be ours. He at length our fruits will sever, and night will be one long separation. Why don't we kind of use our time, the gifts of time, before it is over? You all remember, the teachers remember how Volpone was saying all these things to Celia, and Ben Jonson, who was so classically oriented, who was a wise scholar, made it. Marvell is also using it. Marvell is not only using Catullus, Marvell is also using the carpe florem, carpe diem motif. Snatch the flower, snatch the day, seize the day, carpe diem. Carpe meaning snatch. I snatch. Carpe diem, carpe florem. Let us snatch the flower, let us snatch the day. So this is, you must have got it in Spenser's sonnets, for example. Sweet flower, it's a sweet rose, etc. Or in Robert Herrick, isn't it? What is it? Let us love while there is time, for tomorrow might be too late, etc. So that is the anacreontic precept. Anacreon was a Greek philosopherly poet who in the 6th century BC wrote, 6th century if I'm correct, yes, he wrote that everything will be going down, time will take everything away, so consummate your life, use life correctly. And Anacreon inspired Lucretius, that Roman philosopher come writer. Anacreon also inspired Epicurus, another Greek philosopher. And Epicurus through Anacreon, through Epicurus, inspired Lucretia. What is Lucretian philosophy? Pleasure principle. Life must be consummated. Do not live an ascetic life. Time will not long be ours. So enjoy. Live it up. Live it full. Live it with zest. This is a pagan philosophy. And Christianity says, do not enjoy life. Think of God. The lady says, think of God. Yes, love on, but think of God, be godly. And the lover says, no, I am thinking only of you. You are my God. Let me come close to you. You are my religion. Love is my religion. Okay. So that's how I shall love you 10 years. I'm sorry. I'm excluding those body counting kind of imagery, which you know, the breast and the eyes and etc. Marvell reworks on Rosa, meaning Ronsard, Johannes the Secundas, for example, all Latin writers. Rosa was a French courtier poet who inspired the Cavalier poets like Carew, Cleveland, and Lovelace, and also Marvell. Marvell writes conjoining the traditions of the metaphysicals with the Cavalier and Elizabethan lyricists. Robert Herrick, Cleveland, Carew, everybody is there. Amative love, amatory lines are there, but also the irony, the satire, the counterspin, the Dunnian wit, the metaphysical imagery. But the metaphysical imagery in Donne are sometimes harsh, violent. But here, Marvell doesn't create any violence. Even when he speaks of violent images, it's so glycerinated. It is so immaculately oily. I'm coming to that. The grave is a fine and private place, isn't it? Oh my gosh. But it is spoken with beams and winking of the eye. That's how it is. Now, all these things will be done. Lady, you want 10,000 years for me to love your eyes, etc. I'm ready. My love should be vegetable, meaning there is no chance of a meat, no sexual consummation. There are many other interpretations available on vegetables, because vegetable is asexual, vegetable is very slowly growing, etc. This is an original Marvell concept. We have failed to find out a kind of tradition, but Marvell is actually rallying all the traditions here. The tradition of macabre, the tradition of the grave house, the graveyard poets, the grave and death imagery, the charnel house imagery of Asclepiades, where the dead bodies were hung up on the roof and birds came and pecked on their livers and entrails and etc. That mordant imagery is very much there in the second strophe meaning movement. Had we but, lady, if I had got time, I would have done it. Now, this impossibility, this catalogue of impossibilities is called adonata in Latin. It is a very old classical kind of poetic trope, poetic tradition. Adonata, A-D-O, long O actually, adonata or adonata. So that cataloging of parts comes very much not only in Catullus, it comes in, for example, Esquire, the Esquire, Patti and the Esquire, who says, obstinatiora carpo basia mille, labris milia, et milia ocelis meaning akshi in Sanskrit, yes, et milia ocelis, and genis milia, genis and papilla meaning breast, the pupils. And sorry, papilla is not only papilla of the breast, the pupils of the eye. So he goes on itemizing all these things, which Abraham Cowley also does in his poem My Diet. On a drop of sigh, on a drop of sigh, a year I will give, and a tear will give me 20 at least. A gentle look I will give 50 years, etc. And a whole age I shall give to you, only if you have inclination for me, because time is, and the rest is vast eternity. And Abraham Cowley is using vast eternity in a positive sense. We will be loving on, carrying on forever, very much like Browning. But look how Marvell is using, at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near, yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Deserts of vast eternity, suddenly there is a turning around. There is a dramatic turning around. The poem is a conjoining of lyric and drama. It began with if, the same allegro molto is the same tetrameter is so slowly working, long love's day. But same tetrameter is used so hurriedly. At my back eye, always here, time's winged chariot hurrying near. You look at the change, the same meter, but the effect is so different, counterproductive, because the premise is antithesis. This is antithesis. If we had enough time, but we don't have time, then what will happen? Then worms shall try thy long preserved virginity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Oh my goodness! It's charnel house imagery of, what is it? Asclepiades. Asclepiades was a 3rd century BC, yes, third century or 2nd century BC Greek poet who always, like graveyard poets, talked of death. And remember, Charan is standing on. I kaita prohexete Charan, and that is Greek, where Charan is waiting on, and Cerberus with his dog is, Cerberus the dog is attacking us. That great image is there in the 2nd stanza. What does it have an effect? It holds the lady nervous. The lady is, gone dumb, speechless. Oh my God, the reality is like this. Yes. Oh, we are not going to have enough time. Not millions and millions and eons of ages, but only a few years, 60, maybe 50, 60. Whom does Marvell intertextualize? Marvell intertextualizes Shakespeare, among many others. What is it? When yellow leaves are few or none to hang upon the boughs, in me you seest, you must have read that sonnet number 73. In me thou seest the embers, the ashes of that fire, etc. So here is a sudden assumption of seriousness. Do we call the poem mock serious, light-hearted, superficial? This is once again a bitter disciple who outdoes Donne. As T.S. Eliot said, as A.J.C. Grierson says, that Donne is sometimes, he hobbles across. Sometimes he writes lines of unequal merit. But Marvell writes absolutely immaculately. It's a perfect poem. Together with Keats's Ode to Autumn, Marvell's To His Coy Mistress is the 2nd perfect poem. There is a 3rd perfect poem, that is W.B. Yeats's, 2nd Coming. These are, treasure. There is a 4th perfect poem, Wilfred Owen's Strange Meeting. Perfect? Stanzaic manipulation, sound and meaning coordination, use of diction, stylistics, objective, correlated, absolutely equal to the task. You cannot transpose one single syllable. You cannot reinvent. You cannot better. You cannot change. You cannot ask for anything more. So if Hadui gets butted by sorry, we don't have. There is a but in the 2nd strophe, but at my butt. This but is also butt. Butt meaning with a real kind of a baton, with a real club, he battens them. Therefore, naturally, the 3rd strophe, the syllogistically falls because it doesn't follow from that. He says, therefore, this therefore does not automatically follow from that hadui and but. Because there could be other arguments that if we really die, then why do we want to consummate? Willy-nilly we will die. But he says, the lover, hurly-burly, the battle is won and lost and won. He suddenly, what should I say, augments, accelerates the pace of the argument. The lady is flummoxed, the lady is flustered. And the lady says, what's to be done? Then says, no. Just exactly when you must have seen young ladies, if you tell ghost stories to them in a dimly lighted house, in a solitary corner, I think usually, this is no kind of no slur on women, but tender little girls, if you tell real ghost stories, they will be thrilled, but they will also be very nervous. But these hopeless burly boys, they'll say, rubbish, ghost, I want to see him. Sometimes, more often than not. Let us imagine. So the lady is already nervous. She has started sweating, or rather perspiring, because in modern English, sweat goes with animals, not no longer with men. Right? In modern English, thrice is no longer used. Don't say thrice. You say twice, but when it is thrice, you say three times, threefold, on three occasions. Please, for God's sake, don't say thrice. Thrice is poetical. Thrice died with the death of 18th century. Okay? Unless it's a very formal occasion, we don't say thrice. But in India, we say. So now, therefore, come close to me and let us consummate. The third stanza, the third strophe, is the worst strophe among the three strophes because Marvell was at his best. I am quoting great critics also. Leishman says in Marvell's poetry, Leishman says Marvell is better than other poets, best poets, even when he is worst in his own poem. The third stanza is a practical call, seduction poem. The motive of seductio comes out here in the third stanza. Come, let us, make the best of time. Let us roll all our strength. Let us pout us while we may, like amorous birds of prey. Amorous birds of prey is a long image. Eagles and hawks, even when they make love, even when they mate, if you look on at them, it will look as if they're fighting. So everything what they do is with zest. The lover is all for zest, all for energy. The lover is bubbling and boiling with energy. And the lady is also now, the term is she's responding physically. There is a sign, as it were, or is the lover misinterpreting? We have no way to know because it's a dramatic monologue, the first dramatic monologue ever written perhaps by any poet in English literature. Later on it was followed by many. Browning almost took a monopoly on it. Tennyson also practiced, but it is a real monologue with all the verve and agogness of a drama, with all the thuds and pulls of heart pulsating. Let us move through the iron gates of life. The sexually covert connotations are there, the teachers will tell you, but the poetical meaning is time will put up an iron gate. I will make you old, I will make you tired, etc. Before we are losing out our youth, let us consummate, let us consummate, let us consummate. So there is a reversal of role. The lady started as a deity, and the fellow started as a wooer. But through the poem, the lady was a girl student and he is a Mr. Professor teacher of love. And he teaches the logic like done in Good Morrow. The first stanza is physical, the second stanza is mental, psychological, and the third stanza is spiritual. It is a going up. In Marvell, it is a syllogistical, roller coaster. There is an up, then there is a deep down, death. He will become a lady, dead body, but still he will be raped. But who will rape you? Who will seduce you? The worms. And the lady says, oh my goodness. Her imagination is all creaking. Oh my goodness, worms. So choose between worms and me. Am I not a handsome boy? I will no longer love you when you are a quaint lady. Quaint lady is definitely a borrowing from medieval literature. Definitely, it is. I'm sorry. A quaint lady is from Virgil, if I remember correct. Virgil's eclogues, right? Quaint lady. So quaint meaning both old and outdated. Your virtue, your ideas are outdated. So do it. So it is a real, roller coaster game for us. We don't know who is correct. Is the lady correct or the boy correct? From the point of view of exercise of wit, Dante takes us in Good Morrow to the up, and Marvell takes us to the up, but not in the hieratic terms, not in Christian sense, not in pietude. He takes us up to the nuptial bed, maybe, or to the lover's bed. Yes, thank you. I have done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your thought-provoking, informative, resourceful, intellectual deliberation on Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress. I sincerely hope myself and my participants, students and teachers are really enlightened by your witty, and resourceful presentation of Marvell's To His Coy Mistress. Sir, we have got a number of questions from the participants, from the teachers and the students. I have jotted them out. Sir, am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, yes, very much. Yes.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, perfectly audible.
Acha.
Nomrata B, a participant, has put a very pertinent question. The question is, how does Marvell's To His Coy Mistress employ both hyperbole and understatement? And what are their effects on the readers? Sir, over to you.
Oh my goodness. The entire poem is actually a series of hyperboles serrated together, dovetailed together. As the plumes on a bird are dovetailed, they are woven one into the other, and they lead out in a train, contingent, one leads to the other. Because the hyperbole or hyperbole, in original Greek it is hyper, meaning upper in Sanskrit, and boli meaning in Bangla buli. So overstatement is there, 10,000 years and etc. Lady, long last day, etc. Rubies find, the hyperboles are there. And the presentation of death, time coming, almost like a demon, almost like Shelley's West Wind. He coming charioted and trying to pursue him, because the image is very much that of the sun god driven on a chariot, Hyperion or Apollo. So time, because the sun keeps the time. So these are also hyperbole. Understatement is, yes, he means sex, but he never verbalizes sex. He says, your skin, through the pores I find the water is coming out, steam is coming out. He means you are hotting up. So I better not, use the words. He uses metaphorical sublations, supplants the actual sex words. He never uses any sex word. He uses iron gates of life, amorous birds of prey, and he actually understates without stating. He euphemizes the posture of the lover like a ball. The two lovers rolled up in a ball is a very explicit sexual posture. So please don't drag me into all this. Understatement is very much there at the level of understanding. How tacitly he adroitly manipulates the responses of the lady. You look at the marvelous game, and there are two Marvells: the lover, Professor Lover, and the poet Marvell, who writes the poem without loving. Marvell was writing the poem without falling in love. He was writing it as an exercise. It is a tournament. Can I write a love poem? And he poured in all kinds of best things, sugar and salt and cashew nuts, all the chemistries into the poem. It is too prepared, too made up to be a true love poem. It is not a love poem. It is a parody, it's a pastiche of a love poem, posing to be a love poem, but it is actually a field exercise on the part of Marvell. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Second question, does the poem convey some sort of misogynistic message?
No and yes, or rather yes and no. If you are angry with a particular girl, will it be proper to pass a judgment on the poor, frustrated young man who is laden with so much of love? He is almost slavering, love, 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 love. I want to come to you, I want to come to you. And the lady shoves him off. The lady shoves him off. If you, the girl, it must be a girl student who must have asked. Is the question asked by a girl student?
No, the participant did not reveal her his or her identity. She is mentioned life and more with us.
Acha. I can almost
Gender,
have a flavor.
gender confusion.
The point is, love and marriage will be cooked up if we bring in, I'm speaking as an old man, I'm speaking out of the so-called learned parlance of your gender studies. I'm speaking straight from my experience as a father figure. If I had a daughter and if I would ask her to marry, she might retort saying, "Oh, old father, you old fellow, you are still rotting with your idea of marriage. Oh my goodness, this is nothing but servitude to the patriarchy and out and down with androcentrism, etc." But the point is, this is a 17th century poem where the lover loves the lady with all his body, if not with all his soul. Because the lover feels that the soul is nothing but a zestful, vigorous, animated action of the body. He is a well-read fellow who knows the philosophy of the sophists, and he knows casuistries. He thinks, and he doesn't believe in, whether he believes in God or not is not the question. He believes in having consummated his love. The lady is saying no, and the lady is unrealistic, and he is angry with the lady. And then he is misogynistic only insofar as this particular lady or this particular attitude shown by a puritanical laid-back ladies are concerned. But the fellow will not be doing it with a girl who will be readily listening to his call. Then he will be an amorous soul. He is not misogynist in that learned sense. I'm sorry. He is angry, that's why he is reacting so.
Thank you, sir. A participant named Proloy Ray has asked a question. Sir, can we consider this poem as a dramatic monologue?
Yes, it's a poem where a person nearly mad with his pent up emotion of love is speaking out, and he is using the sinews of his wit to spin around the lady, to let it coil around the lady, using it as a noose. He is using his verbal artistry as a noose, and he is going on speaking to the lady. Only we don't get to hear the lady's
May I
answer.
intervene? May I intervene?
Right. Right, sir. Please do.
Yes. In my discussion on dramatic monologue and Browning, I did not mention that Browning, I have mentioned that Browning has perfected that dramatic form, that poetic form, and that poetic narrative. But at the same time, Browning's dramatic monologue has its precedents as well, from the Anglo-Saxon period. Wife's lament, husband's message, wife's complaint, husband's message, divorce lament. Then also some of the metaphysical love poems, including this one, discussed by Professor Chidananda Bhattacharya. Some of the sonnets by Shakespeare, where there are definitive elements of dramatic monologue. What Browning has done, he has simply dragged on that particular tradition, legacy, and thereafter has added something of his own. That is my intervention. I think I am not incorrect. Chidananda?
Sir, I a little beg to differ with your kind permission. They are monologues. In Deo's lament, for example, Deo is going on lamenting, but whether he is speaking to himself, whether he is kind of remembering all those things. If there is a lack of drama, there is no hardly any drama in it.
Exactly,
In Wise
exactly.
Lament, in
So
Wise
dramatic
Lament,
monologue in
right,
the
right, right.
most embryonic form is to be found in this. Yes.
It is a distant cousin to dramatic monologue. Even in
Well, that is
Shakespeare, there is a talk which comes closer. Oh, my dear friend, marry, marry. You know, we expect kind of from our, etc. But the drama, the verb, and the give and take, the shooting tongue of drama, and the immediacy, the presence of the non-speaking actor at the other end does not condition the mindset of the speaker so
But
much in there.
Chidananda, I
That's,
think in some of the Shakespearean sonnets, there is a suggestion like a second speaker, a second auditor,
there is a suggestion, very much you are correct, sir.
Somebody is listening to the poet.
Somebody is listening. Somebody is listening. Technically, it's a dramatic monologue, but it is a very
But not dramatic monologue in the Browning sense of the term.
It is not a dramatized monologue.
It is
The soul of drama, the soul of drama lies in conflict, in the give and take, in the the blows, fisticuffs. In To His Coy Mistress, there is a kind of fisticuff. There is an anger. There is an anger. There is an immediacy. I'm not going to come to you to love you when you are it's a fine, great. So the lady is contorting. The lady is wincing, and then now, come. So that's the drama. That's it.
There is what a modern critic would have called regarding dramatic monologue. There is always the ambivalence of values, conflicts, motives, etc.
It is very much like the pull of the moon creating a flux in the river tide. So the lady's presence is like the moon creating a tide in the lava. So that's a dramatic monologue.
Chidananda, when have you become an astrophysicist?
I had been an astrologer, sir.
Astrologer.
By the by, to tell you, sir, frankly, I am a very voracious pursuer of everything astrophysical. I understand so very little, but
very interesting subject.
I voraciously, I know the nebula, the black hole, and the Oots void, and everything there is, and the Boots void, everything. नतद् भासयते सूर्यो न शशांक न पावकः यद् गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद् धाम परं मम. So the Upanishad is also there, and Tagore was a voracious astrophysicist.
The session is becoming more and more interesting because of the interaction of our two eminent speakers. Sir, my last question to you, sir. With this question, we will conclude our technical session. And the last question is asked by our student of semester 5, Ritam Dattu, a student of Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram. His question is, how is the tone and mood change in each section of the poem To His Coy Mistress? And what is its effect on the readers? So should I repeat the question?
No, I've got it. That will do. Okay. The tone changes 3 times, like the switching of the keys. If conditions the tonality, there is a mock polite, mock serious, even mock heroic kind of tone, very unassuming, very what should I say, very petitioning. Oh my goddess, sweet beloved, yes, very now apparently nodding in the yes, very assenting, decent, very slow gait. The slow gait, I tried to make it, maybe it was my inability that could not put it through. The slow gait in the first stanza, there it's a pastime, everything is lazy, everything is well fed. Where is the hurry? Suddenly there is a hurrying and scurrying with the switch giving is very much like the pendulum, the metronome, the pendulum in the old style wall clocks. the pendulum moves to one end, then rebounds back to the other end. So if goes slowly, gets bounded, comes back quickly, and then goes quickly. So that's how the second stanza accelerates the pace. It becomes scoffing, it becomes satirical, it becomes slightful. Lady, you are very silly to expect it. And there is a dismissal. Suddenly there is a different man. The first stanza, it was a coaxing, entreating man. And the second, here is a soldierly, a military general giving his verdict. Then the third stanza, here is a kingly kind of male macho man saying, come, do this, imperative, a lordly royal order given to, and the lady has been reduced to a servitude. You are now my servant. I have conditioned your mind. You are bound to do what I am asking you to do. So these are the tonalities, and the tone is definitely, let us hurry, time is going away, in the third and final stanza. The effect on the reader is mesmerized. That reader is I should say, that reader is a mentally challenged reader who doesn't, on his palate, crush the grapes that have been offered him by this sweet mage magician, this real magician, this marvelous Marvell, who offers such a cup of tea, such exotic thing for us. It's an Elysian beverage, I must say. It's an Elysian beverage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering all these questions asked by our participants. I would like to hand over the microphone to our esteemed colleague, Professor Biplab Das, in the Department of English, who will offer vote of thanks. And with the vote of thanks, we will close today's session. Over to Biplab, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. And on a personal note, I am a big fan of you, and it is always a pleasure to hear you. And
oh, is it?
we can only say that had we but world enough to hear you, sir. But you have mentioned all the aspects of metaphysical poetry with special reference to Marvell's, to his chemistries, and the way you have brought the element of intertextuality in reading this poem is simply brilliant, sir. And I think our students and active participants have been extremely benefited from this discussion. And I think your deliberation has proved one of the enlivening evenings amid this pandemic situation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
And I want to thank our honorable principal, sir, Dr. Chandan Kumar Chakraborty, for his constant support and guidance. I also want to thank our coordinator of IQAC, Dr. Rimi Roy, and convener of this online special lecture, Professor Shottubroto Dinda, sir, for organizing this. I also want to convey my vote of thanks to the faculty members of the Department of English and all teaching and non-teaching staff of Vivekananda College, Madhyamgram, and the technical support team for their constant support and cooperation. And above all, I must thank our students and active participants, without whom this online special lecture would not have been successful. So, with these words, I can say for the last time that we expect your gracious presence in future whenever we'll be arranging such seminars or webinars, whatever it is. So, thank you, sir. Thank you
I shall love
so much.
I shall love to. Thank you. I also accord my thanks and my words of gratitude to your college authority and whoever have been there pulling the strings from behind, and my love to the students and my blessings to all of you. I think I am older than all of you are here, so my blessings, my sweet,
yes,
sweet feelings for you.
You were younger in heart.
Thank you.
With
I
all
know,
this,
I know Devida has left already. That's why I took this opportunity. Right.
thank you, sir, for your best wishes. And
Thank
with
you.
this, I do hereby end the session of this online special lecture. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
goodbye.
all.
Good night. Right. কি গো কিরকম বললাম শুনেছো?
The session is over.